What's up, guys? Today we're going to be making picks for UFC Ngannou versus Velasquez. Before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to Mike from Fights with Friends. That's another MMA channel here on YouTube. We did a UFC prediction card together yesterday, which is now up on his channel. I'll leave the link down below in the description. Great guy, great content. Go check him out. You won't regret it. He also does streams. So if you're interested in streaming, as in like watching fights with someone else, he's there to answer your questions as you go through the card. So I'm sure he's going to be available this weekend for this card. And yeah, let's get into this card. So first fight up, we have Jimmie Rivera versus Aljamain Sterling. This is a very, very close fight in my eyes. Aljamain Sterling, a bigger guy without question. He's 5'7". He's got a 71-inch reach compared to Jimmie Rivera's only 5'4". Smaller guy for sure. Definitely cuts less weight. I've heard Sterling complain in the past that it's a big weight cut and that he's going to be going up in weight. So we'll see how that goes, or when that happens, if that happens. But as for this fight, I really see this fight playing out on the feet. Jimmie Rivera has pretty good takedown defense from what we've seen. Aljamain Sterling may be the best wrestler that he's ever fought, so that'll be interesting. But I think Rivera's going to keep this one on the feet. I think he's going to be better on the feet. I think he has a better understanding of striking. I believe he's faster, and he's just a very, very good boxer. If you watched Rivera versus Dodson, very technical boxer. Dodson significantly faster than him. Rivera's fast, but Dodson is he's got to be the fastest guy in the UFC, and I believe he has been ever since he came into the UFC. But he was able to counteract that with a little bit of power, but more so just technique, defense, and a great game plan in that fight. So that was a great fight to watch. He kind of took over the fight, I guess I'd say. Early on it was quite close, but then that technique, strategy just was too much for Dodson in that one. So I was impressed with that fight. Rivera also trains at Tiger Schulman. That's with guys like Shane Burgos, like Lyman Good, Ryan LaFleur. I'm sure there's others. So great camp there out of New York. Sterling is also out of New York, training, of course, with Ray Longo as well as Matt Serra. So great BJJ there with Matt Serra. You got Chris Weidman in that camp, Alia Quinta in that camp, John Vellante in that camp, many others in that camp. So both great camps, both out of New York. Going to be the Battle of New York here. And I believe that it's going to play out on the feet. I believe Rivera is going to take the win here, probably by decision. Next up, we have another extremely close fight. Guys, I believe this card is significantly better than last week's card, and last week's card was a pay-per-view. So if you got ESPN, for sure, tune into this one. Andre Fili versus Myles Jury. So close fight. Very, very similarly built. Fili's 5'11", Jury's 5'10". The reach has got to be almost identical. I always underestimate Andre Fili, like every time. I always think he's going to lose. Pulls out some, not others. He's had some weird decisions though. Like I thought Dennis Bermudez for sure beat him, but Fili got the decision there. And I thought Fili beat Michael Johnson, but Michael Johnson got the win there. So he's been in some weird decisions. Going back to Fights with Friends with Mike over there, we were talking about the judging and the reffing and some of the issues which guys like Andre Fili have had to dealt with in the past. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. But for this fight, Jury, very, very skilled. He's a BJJ black belt. Dominic Cruz has said he's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys that he's ever rolled with, so that's saying something for sure. I believe he has a bit of a confidence issue, though. He doesn't fight very often. I'm not exactly sure why. But in his fights, he's kind of like, he's either really, really good or very hesitant and not looking so good. So against guys like Chad Mendes, he looked extremely hesitant in that fight. Rightfully so, but you can't be hesitant in a fight, man. Throwing lots of feints. Was just kind of, it looked like he was thinking too much. He was throwing feints, looking for reactions, wasn't getting reactions, and then with him trying to watch and see what was going on, all of a sudden Mendes charged at him, he wasn't ready for it, and he got knocked out, or TKO at the very least. But then again, against guys like Rick Glenn, he did extremely well. Was getting the better of him early, and as a result, no confidence problems, so he could play his game plan out exactly how he wanted to, and looked incredible in that fight. So I don't think this is going to be an easy fight for Jury. I think Fili, I don't think he's as skilled, but very, very close. So it's going to be honestly, this fight it's a confidence one. It's similar to like Arnett versus Young last week. If Arnett was confident and thought he was going to win, I felt he would win. He kind of lacked that a little bit, and I think that was problematic. It was a close fight. He did well, but I really feel he was more skilled than Shane Young in that one. I think this is going to be similar. I'm going to take Jury anyway. I got to go with the technical guy, and let's keep the streak alive of me underestimating Mr. Andre Fili. So Jury by decision in that one. Next up, we have Bryan Barberena versus Vicente Luque. Barberena, a guy that a lot of people will look at and be like, oh, he's not that good. He's not in good shape. Kind of like Roy Nelson. Barberena is very good. 6 feet tall. So he's an inch taller, but he has a shorter reach than Vicente here. Barberena is a southpaw, which is going to be very interesting because Luque uses a lot of body kicks, and it's going to be super open because Barberena is a southpaw. So that could be problematic here. We're going to see. Barberena is a good striker, though. He's very susceptible to brawling, though. So if a guy starts to hit him and come in close, he'll just brawl them. Like, he does that in every fight. Once guys get close together, he doesn't usually clinch. He usually just, like, starts swinging away. So as a result of that, he's very hittable, especially when you get him brawling. But he's durable. So it kind of, like, counteracts one another because he'll get hit over and over and over again and gas you out as a result of that. So there's some other guys like Darren Elkins that have strategies sort of similar to that, where they just get hit over and over again, but they can take it, and then the other guy's gassed out, and then they can finish them afterwards. So that's a possibility in most fights with Barberena. I don't see this one playing out like that, though. Luque, the guy's like the Terminator. I mean, if you look at his record, I don't know what it is offhand, but I think he has like 6 losses, maybe like 13, 14, 15, something like that in terms of wins. But as of late, he's at least 3 fights in a row that he's won. Very impressive wins. Just a great striker. I think he's better everywhere, really, than Barberena. I don't think he's going to have any trouble stand-up-wise, but if he does, I think he could take him to the ground, where he's going to have a huge advantage. In the clinch, I think he's going to have an advantage. I believe he's stronger. The only thing that I feel Barberena is going to have an advantage of is, one is maybe durability, which he's going to need here, and the other one is going to be cardio, because Luque does swing pretty hard, so he usually gasses out not that early, but like 3rd round. If Barberena can stay around, take all those shots, he could have a chance here in the 3rd round. I actually do have a bet on this fight. If you want to know the exact bet, as always, it's at betmmatips.com. Link for that is in the description down below if you want to actually look at my actual bets. But yeah, I think Luque is just too good here. I think he's going to knock out Barberena. If not, it could be a corner stoppage. I just see him getting really battered. So yeah, that's so for that one, yeah. So Luque by knockout. Next up, the fight that I don't care about, to be honest with you. Alex Caceres versus Kron Gracie. Neither one of these guys impressed me really at all. Caceres, kind of like win-loss. Fairly similar to Artem Lobov, actually, just in terms of he's in the UFC, because he's exciting, I guess. He doesn't seem that skilled to me. Hands are always down. Very, very hittable. He uses his reactions. Like, he doesn't actually have his hands up. He's just kind of like, what's his name? Like Roy Jones Jr., where he's just trying to dodge, use his reactions, which is good if you can react to every punch. But when you got 4-ounce gloves and fists coming at your face and kicks and all kinds of other stuff, you want to have your hands up, and he just doesn't. Kron Gracie, I wasn't impressed at all. I'm not going to lie. I heard that he was going to be the best striker out of any Gracie ever, which he probably is, because none of them strike. So, yeah, Kron, nothing really impressed me. Primarily a boxer. He does dirty boxing quite well in the clinch. He pulls guard more often than not to get guys to the ground. Wrestling-wise, not that impressed by it, to be honest with you. Usually he's just going to try to like wear you out and then get you to a point where you're not expecting the takedown, and then he pulls guard and he's got you where he wants you. So I think he submitted all of his opponents. He only has 4 fights though, and 2 of them were like ridiculous, like against complete scrubs. So basically 2 fights against decently high level competition over there in Ryzen. Hasn't fought in 2 years. He has been training with the Diaz brothers, so I'm going to guess his boxing's better. I don't think his jiu-jitsu can get any better. Maybe MMA-wise it could get better, but I'm not impressed with Caceres at all. So I'm going to go with Kron here. Not super confident, but I'd go with Kron. I think the line's like minus 350, minus 400 for Gracie here. I don't know if it's justified or not. I mean, both these guys are just, they're not very good. So I'm going to kind of like bank on the fact that Kron's going to have improved over the last 2 years. But yeah, not super impressed with Bruce Leroy. Not super impressed with Gracie. We'll go with Gracie by submission here, though. Next up, Courtney Casey versus Cynthia Calvillo. Let's start with Courtney Casey. So I think she's lost her last 3 fights in a row. Losing to, like, for example, Michelle Watterson. Michelle Watterson is like 20, 25 pounds lighter than Courtney Casey. Way smaller. I don't know if she cuts any weight. If she does, it's like 3 pounds, something like that. Casey cuts a lot of weight. I think she's the biggest girl I've ever seen for this weight class. 5'7", probably like a 5'7" reach, 67-inch reach, something like that. She's athletic. She has a soccer background. But one thing that's going to be problematic here is the takedown defense. She has horrendous takedown defense. She'll just flop to her back. I think she's pulled guard before, if I'm not mistaken. And you don't want to do that here because Calvillo is very dangerous on the ground. Trains at Alpha Male, where most of their training is grappling. That's what these guys do, girls do. So, yeah, you don't want to go to the ground with Calvillo. Casey is good on the ground. I think she's a BJJ brown belt, so certainly knows what she's doing there. But she's going to want to keep this one on the feet. And as I said, takedown defense, not great. So, yeah. And the other thing with Casey is the footwork isn't that good. Primarily a boxer, throws a few kicks, but definitely primarily a boxer. She kind of plods forward, doesn't ever cut off the cage. She's always following her opponent. So footwork needs a lot of work. Calvillo, as I said, very dangerous on the ground. Wants to take this fight to the mat. And her takedowns aren't the best either, though. So it's really a question of if this fight goes to the ground and if Calvillo can get on top, because that's where the dangers are going to be. This is another fight where you don't really know what's going to happen because the competition level isn't that high. I mean, Calvillo is like good some fights, bad others. It's all about matchup for her. I actually have a bet on Calvillo for this fight, which I might hedge. I might bet on Casey because the lines changed so much that I could just win regardless. So I might do that just because I don't think it's a hard fight to call. It's just like a little bit unpredictable due to their fighting style, basically. So I'll go Calvillo here. I don't think she's going to get the submission. I think it's going to be a decision. So that's that for that one. Next up, we have James Vick versus Paul Felder. A lot of people writing off James Vick here. I get it. I mean, that chin did not look good against Gaethje. I do think people are underestimating Gaethje a little bit, though. The guy brawls in every fight, wants to make it entertaining. He's not there to win fights necessarily. He's there to make fans. He's there to be the most entertaining fighter on the roster, basically, and he does a really good job at that. But make no mistake about it, the guy's extremely skilled, and he showed that there, used pressure very well, had good footwork. Obviously, the leg kicks are an issue, so he was just throwing them out there to get Vick to back up. He didn't want to get hit by them, backed him into the cage, and then smashed him. But Vick's a 2-time Golden Glove champ. So great striker, and great boxer, sorry. All around, he's a decent striker. He throws some weird kicks, though. Throws like Shawn Michaels sweet chin music kicks at times. Weird. But he uses reach arguably better than anybody else in the UFC. That's definitely personal opinion. I'm sure there's other people that would completely disagree with that. But he uses his reach very, very well. The only guy that I've really seen get through it is Beneil Dariush. He ducked under Vick straight, I think twice in that fight. Ducked under and then went with the overhand right and caught him both times. Second time hurt him bad and finished him from there. So if you can do that, I think there's a hole in his game there. But I do think Vick's improved a lot since that point. Moving on to Felder. Felder is going to be at I think a 6-inch reach disadvantage here. He's a great striker, though. He's a Muay Thai background, very fast, very powerful, technical striker, does lack defense, and he's a gritty, tough dude who just, like, loves to, I wouldn't say brawl, but, like, get in the fire. If you guys saw the Perry fight, you see how tough he is. Broke his arm in the first round, went 3 rounds with Perry with a broken arm, and did pretty well, even though arm's broken. His BJJ, his jiu-jitsu is extremely good, surprisingly, because everybody thought he's a striker, and then it turns out he's like almost as good at jiu-jitsu as he is a striker. Defended everything Charles Oliveira had in terms of submissions, did really, really well against him. Went to the ground voluntarily against Oliveira, which no one does, and elbowed him to death. So very, very impressed with Felder on the ground. Vick has submissions on the ground too, though. I don't know if Felder does, but Felder's good on the ground. But so Vick, good on the ground as well. I think the reach is just going to be too much in this fight. I think there's 2 ways this plays out. I think one, Felder knocks him out. Very, very possible. And the other way this goes is Vick wins the decision. I'm going to go with Vick via decision here. And the main event. Guys, I have absolutely no idea who's going to win this. I'm not going to lie. I've gone back and forth like 6 times on Fights with Friends on Mike's channel over there. I picked Velasquez, but like I'm 50-50. I don't know who the hell is going to win this. But let's break it down anyway. So, Velasquez, he's coming back after 3 years. He looked very, very good against Travis Brown, I thought. Completely dominated him in classic Cain Velasquez style, basically. Obviously, we know how the guy fights. I think he's arguably the best heavyweight of all time, but we know how he fights. So he pressures guys to death. He doesn't really use his wrestling that much. Obviously, it's in his back pocket, but you don't see him use it very much. But surprisingly, I don't know how good he is at actually incorporating it into MMA. You see fights like the second fight against Bigfoot Silva. Bigfoot stuffed 2 out of 2 takedowns. Cain couldn't take him down and went back to his bread and butter, which is pressuring guys up against the cage and just teeing off on them. He has good head movement, but it's quite predictable. It's head side to side as he goes in, so predictable, but at least his head is moving. Obviously, what we know Velasquez for are the fights against JDS. The first fight, the big haymaker from Dos Santos, with the split-second knockout. I don't know how long that fight went, like 2 minutes, and then he got knocked out. It did land a little behind the head, though. A little behind the ear, sorry, like back of the head, which puts you down. You're still there, but your equilibrium's all messed up. You can't get up, and I think that's what happened to him there. And then, of course, the follow-up was terrible. But Cain Velasquez back here, a lot of people are like, ring rust, like he's going to suck because of the ring rust. Like, we can't have him in here against Ngannou with all this ring rust. I don't think there's going to be any ring rust. None. 0. Yeah, maybe he starts slow. He usually starts slow. I think he's going to be better than ever. He's rested. He's recovered. Had surgeries and stuff to fix all his ailments. And then I think it's like a year and a half since then. He's had a child, and he's wanted to watch them grow up. So first year and a half or so of their life. And as a result, he's just been recovering. So I think we might see the first time ever, like 100% Cain Velasquez. He says he still trains just as hard as ever. Smart nonetheless, but just as hard as ever. I think the key for Cain in this fight is going to be pressure. He's got to do what he always does, which is pressure against the fence, and just like dirty box until Ngannou's gassed out, which if you can keep him in the clinch probably like end of the second round, he's going to be really, really tired just because of that, the fast twitch muscle fiber, the explosiveness, the reliance on exploding out of certain positions, and obviously just the muscle mass. Ngannou's going to gas if he can keep that pressure on him. The other thing is Javier Mendez is a coach. I don't think he would let Velasquez fight unless he's 100% and he thinks he can win. So, yeah, that's it for Cain. Ngannou, okay, you guys are sleeping on Francis Ngannou. I hear all this, oh, he's going to get taken down, oh, he can't wrestle. What the hell are you talking about, man? Okay, if you watch Ngannou fight, even against Stipe, yeah, he took him down. When did he take him down? Well, he got one takedown that was extremely well timed after he missed like 3 in a row. Ngannou has very good takedown defense, and people aren't talking about it. People are like, oh, Cain's going to take him down, easy money, we're going to take him down and you're just going to pound him out. I'm not in a disagreement necessarily if he gets him down. I don't think he gets him down. He might try a couple times. He's not going to get him down. Ngannou's becoming more and more mature as he fights. You saw his last fight with Curtis Blades, keeping the distance a little bit better. And yeah, sprawling very well. I don't even know if he had to sprawl. He just kind of like picked him up and threw him off. So as I said before, very, very explosive in all his movements, which makes him susceptible to being gassed out. So yeah, I think Ngannou has great takedown defense, and I really don't think that's going to be a problem here until later. So if Cain stays there, like third round, I think Ngannou will be completely fine first and second round. Once we get to the third round, though, there's going to be some problems, especially if Cain has been pressuring him heavy. He's going to be like exhausted come the third round, and that's where Cain will take over. The question is, can he make it that far? Ngannou throws haymakers, as we all know. I think he does have like very fundamental boxing, but he doesn't use it. He's throwing that power because that's how he seems to win more often than not. The other thing to keep in mind with Ngannou here, he's trained in France for this one. A lot of people are saying like his ego had gotten the better of him. He became arrogant, didn't feel like he had to train as much, was training in Vegas, having fun in Vegas, as everybody does. So he's taking fights more seriously now. His last camp, as well as this camp, has been completely done in France, where he started with the coach that got him into MMA in the first place. He's done everything right in terms of coming out 2 weeks early to Arizona to get acclimatized, as well as to have no jet lag, because that can definitely be a big thing coming all the way from France. People sleep on Ngannou as well with like submissions. I mean, I think he has 4 submissions. Like, he's good on the ground. Key for Ngannou in this one, I mean, you don't need a key if you can just knock him out in 5 seconds, right? Just knock him out. That's the easiest way. If not, I think very, very important is establishing that jab, which he doesn't do very often. But if he does it here, establishes that jab, keeps Cain off of him, because once he feels that power, he's going to be like, oh, shit. It's going to be similar to, like, JDS versus Cain to me. So it's whether it goes one of two ways, right? Cain either gets through the first few rounds, exhausts the guy, and wins because you have no chance once you're exhausted and Cain Velasquez is in there. Or he gets the early knockout. And guys, I'm like so 50-50. I just do not know. Last thing I want to talk about for this one is Alistair Overeem. People are like completely forgetting that fight. I mean, Francis Ngannou destroyed him. Overeem, who's like the kickboxing champ's like, I'm not striking with this dude. Hell no. So he went in there and goes for the clinch, and it's like, oh, this is like freaking wrestling my dad. And then Ngannou like picks him up like, no, and then puts him against the cage. So people are sleeping on Ngannou here. Everybody seems to think his only chance is that first round knockout. I think he could knock him out second, third, even fourth round if he can keep Cain off of him, which is very, very difficult. I don't think anybody's even done that before. I guess I'll stick with Cain here, but guys, like, I'm not even like 51-49. I'm like 50-50. I don't know. I think Cain is the greatest heavyweight of all time, so let's go with him here. I think Ngannou is criminally underrated. I think you'll see. I think if he fights Stipe again, I think he wins. But we'll have to wait and see. So that's it for this card. I'm going to go with Cain via decision, and I wouldn't be surprised first or second round knockout for Ngannou. But great card, very competitive fights. Can't wait for the main event. It's great to see Velasquez back. I've had similar issues to Velasquez, who's had some nerve problems, like sciatica, that kind of stuff. I've had multiple nerve issues in the past, so to see a guy like kind of bounce back from that is really cool for me personally. So yeah, I hope he does well. It's just like the most dangerous fight ever. Like, why is he coming back against Ngannou? Obviously, like pay-per-view buys. Dana White paid him a bunch of money, but like even like Curtis Blades is like a better matchup for coming back for Cain. Ngannou is the most dangerous guy in the UFC, so should be fun. Anyway, till next time, guys. Peace out.